Vanchakalpatrubhischa Kripasinduevacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Om again Tirumandasya Kanjana Salakaya Chakshu Militamina Tashmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Trinada Pisa Nichana Tarora Pisa Hishnina Amanina Manadina Kitni Sadahari Tate Nukampam Susamik Shamano Bunjana Vetma Kritam Vipakam Hik Prakapubdi Vididam Namaste Jivitayo Muktisa and Dayabak Vachavigam Manashakrodavigam Jiva Vigam Udara Pasta Vigam Etam Vigam Etan Vigam Yo Vishaheta Dira Savam Apiman Pritvim Sasisyat Anya Balasta Sunyam Gyan Kamadhyana Vritam Anukalenya Krishna Shilanam Bhakti Uttama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasati Ora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. My Dandavat pranams to all the beautiful assembled. My voice is repeating for some reason, Tarun. I don't know why. Yeah, Dandavat pranams, beautiful devotees from wherever you are in the world, godmothers and fathers, god uncles and aunties, sisters and brothers, cousins, second cousins, daughters, sons, nephews and nieces. This is Holistic Bhakti, usually, sometimes weekly, but usually fortnightly program where we try to make the word holistic, you could say, means integrated. We're trying to bring, we listen to a lot of Harikatha, we listen to a lot of philosophy, a lot of ras, a lot of rules as well. And we're trying to integrate it into our lives. We may be married, we may not be married, we may be single, we may be working, we may not be working, we're mothers and daughters, we're sons and fathers. We have all sorts of obligations, and we need to partake in those obligations. And so how do we do that, and do that in a way that is favorable for our bhakti? So we've covered many, many subjects, but this is a very important subject, because actually not a single one of us would be here if it wasn't for this action. Unless Lord Brahma himself had shared the knowledge bestowed unto him and passed that down the line through Guru Parampara, so much has had to happen for us to be bestowed this knowledge. And there will always be someone in your life who was highly significant, either in directing you towards bhakti or in nurturing you in bhakti, or both. And that person as well, they would have had somebody who would have been crucial in their cultivation of their bhakti. So sharing, we decide on this word sharing because it's it can mean, it's quite a broad word. And I'm going to introduce I'm not going to introduce her as our speaker because we've got a slightly different format this week. Because if you don't mind me making a slightly mundane example here, but often I find the most beautiful women in the world are the ones that don't realize they're beautiful. But they're beautiful anyhow, and they don't realize it, which makes them even more beautiful. And this particular person, when it comes to sharing bhakti and approaching someone new in bhakti and cultivating bhakti in all sorts of situations, and I've watched it, I've observed it, I've experienced it, and I've heard about it. So it was my reaching out to Jagatam actually to ask her to share about her sharing. Because actually, naturally, she wouldn't really want to do this because she probably doesn't even consider that she's particularly good at it. But it's my observation that she's fabulous at it, and I wanted her to share how she shares. So Jagatam Didi I've known since 1996. I think most people know her, so I'm not going to do a long introduction, but she's a beautiful Prabhupada disciple. She's been with the devotees for over 40 years. She took Harinam and Diksha from Prabhupada, and she was one of those very bold few who put love of bhakti ahead of institutional concerns. You have to imagine, when you're part of ISKCON, that's your family, and Gurudev comes over to the West, and you don't want to make a choice, but you're forced to make a choice because the politics above you, you're not in control of. So she has been very brave, as has many of our Prabhupada disciples who are with Gurudev, to, right from the beginning, stand for what she believed in and go to the Guru that she felt nourished her Guru, Srila Prabhupada. And hopefully over time, these walls, these barriers will come down. But I really wanted to honor that about Jagatam. In addition for being a wonderful sharer, she's also been somebody who's taken that risk, that reputational risk of saying, I'm going for where I think the truth is. And it's not about belonging to an institution is not as important as being wedded to the truth and to the right Guru. So Jagatam, would you like me to just jump into a question? Is that a good way to start? Let's get warmed up. You're on mute, by the way.
Yes, that would be great, Yashoda. Thank you so much.
Cool. So I'm going to time ourselves. I'm going to put the clock on. We're going to do 30 minutes of Q&A, and then I'll hand over to Tarun, who will do the emceeing for the panel and the audience. Tarun, did you want to jump in and say anything before I start asking Jagatam some questions?
Yes, very special week this week in that it's what is it? I think it's it's one very special festival with Nityananda Prabhu, maybe Chila Dahi Mahotsav. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's a very special day, and on this very special day, Yashodananda Prabhu and I, quite unrelated, have synchronized and both become quite ill. So expect some extra shenanigans coming in that direction. Oh, and yes, on the subject of Q&A, please submit all your questions via the link that's in the chat. Yes, we love your questions. Thank you.
Cool. So, Jagatam, my first question, just to warm up the subject. Jagatam, why do you feel it's important for you as a devotee to share your knowledge and experience of bhakti? I mean, we could just remain in our rooms and chant Hare Krishna. Why does it matter?
Jai Shila Prabhupada, Jai Shila Gurudev. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Why is it important to share what we know in our bhakti with others? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is something that really jumped out of the page, one of the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam to me in the very first canto, the very beginning of the first canto. Prabhupada said, we should not just hear, but we should hear and explain. So I think when I first read that, I didn't quite understand it, but I think it kind of sums up the importance of sharing our bhakti with others and how it's just so much an integral part, I think, of what Srila Prabhupada gave us and what Srila Gurudev continued to cultivate in our hearts, because bhakti is all about love. So yeah, I think if you're feeling any love or any morsel of bhakti in the heart, it's kind of natural to share it. I remember Prem Prayojan once, he quoted Gurudev as saying, preaching is the belching of bhakti. So if bhakti is there, you will have to share it with others. You won't be able to contain it. So
I'm picking up two things from that. One is that it expands your heart, and the other is that it kind of it's like a digestion. It helps you to digest the knowledge you've received. Would that be right?
yes, definitely. Prabhupada always spoke about how he said we should be in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, because when Nrsingadev asked Prahlad Maharaj, what benediction do you want? I want to give you some benediction. Prahlad Maharaj said, I don't really want a benediction, but Nrsingadev insisted. So he said, oh, I want that all the souls in the universe attain pure bhakti for you. So what a magnanimous heart. And Prabhupada always spoke about that. And, you know, Prabhupada, he didn't just speak like this and theoretically give us this knowledge. He was doing it himself, obviously. And we were speaking a little bit before most of the devotees came in about how when Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, we were totally empowered by his mercy and by his love. You know, now we might think, how can I do that? But, you know, we would be out in the street for 11 hours a day and not feel tired and not want to go back to the temple again, because there were still too many people that hadn't received what you want to give them. So yeah, that was, and you know, it's like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in his prayer, O Hey Vaishnav Thakur, your mercy is all that I am made of. So that the mercy of Shri Guru is all that I am made of. That is a fact. Yeah. Somebody, when I was living in Vrindavan for a while, there was one period of time when many men, younger, like new people coming into the process of bhakti, and many people were coming up to me and saying, oh, you have so much love. And I could not understand what they were seeing and why they were saying that. But when I got back to England, I understood that what they're seeing is the mercy and love that Srila Prabhupada implanted in my heart, and that Srila Gurudev and Srila Sadhu Maharaj continued to cultivate in my heart. That's what they were seeing. So yeah, I think we're all representatives of that mercy and love that we're being given.
I had a friend, Bodhi friend once. Tarun, it's repeating again. Do you know why?
Yes,
Is
it's
it
coming through Jagatam's mic.
Oh, I have to get Nima to fix that. Is it repeating for you, Tarun, also?
Yeah.
One second.
Maybe just mute, or Jagatam, you just mute while I'm talking, and then I mute when you're talking. Okay, no problem. We'll wait.
It's gone, actually. It's not doing it anymore.
That's because no one's talking. Well,
No,
you're right.
when
That's
you were
'cause
talking
Jagatam's
last.
No,
on mute.
Jagatam's on mute. That's why.
Okay, it can also be, you haven't got your phone on as well, have you?
No.
Okay, because it can also be that.
It might just be easier for her. Oh, okay. Let's try it. Try unmuting. Oh, yeah. How does that work, Jagatam?
It's fine. I can hear you perfectly. Are you echoing? Are you okay?
Not to me. Madhura, am I okay? Great. Fantastic. Beautiful. So, Jagatam, there's a friend of mine, a very skilled person, became a devotee. I'm generally an extroverted person. I'll go up to anyone and talk to anyone about anything. It doesn't have to be about bhakti even necessarily. But he's much more introverted naturally. And he asked me, well, what does an introverted person do in this subject area? So how would you address that? Because I don't know what kind of personality you are outside of Bhakti, because I know you so as Bhakti. I don't actually know if you're extrovert, if it was not Bhakti or not. So what would you say about that?
Wow, that's quite a challenging question, because I remember when I was a teenager, when I was young, I would always feel sorry for the person who was being left out or being ridiculed, or the person who felt uncomfortable. I always reached out to make friends with them. So I guess you could say that's a sign of being extroverted. I don't know, but I think it's just compassion, really.
I was going to say that's what I'm hearing is compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because you're extroverted, just because I talk to people doesn't mean I have any compassion. Just means I'm not embarrassed easily.
Because it's natural for you. Whereas someone else, it wouldn't. It's not necessarily.
Yeah.
People are very shy, but actually that reminds me of a devotee that I used to do book distribution with. She was an Indian girl, and she was painfully shy. It was so difficult for her to go out on the street and approach people. But she did go because that's what her authorities wanted her to do. And she understood that that's what Prabhupada wanted her to do. So she did, and she started approaching people. And she got through it because she was actually doing it under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. So right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has an answer to that question, but that is an interesting question.
Well, it sounds that's a really.
Sorry, Krishna Priya Didi wanted to speak.
Haribol, Dandavad. Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, I used to be an extroverted person, and then I kind of got more introverted as I became more energetically sensitive and started my spiritual path, just because I noticed more of like what was going on in the world, I guess. It made me draw back a little bit, but I think my Gurudev saw that, and he saw that I was a little bit shy in Vaishnava groups. My Gurudev is Srila Bhaktivedanta Van Maharaj, and his instructions for me were to preach online, and he said there are so many ways these days to spread Lord Chaitanya's movement online, and you can really get creative with it and go so many avenues with it. And so that might be a really nice way for some people to do it, because you don't have to be face to face. You can write, you can make graphic design, you can make art, you can make videos, and do it all like from the comfort of your own home, and then just spread that online, and you're really contributing to the movement in a beautiful way. And so many people are online these days and using social media, and it can really make an impact. I mean, just with World Sankirtan Day, it's all been online, but it's kind of really spreading, and so is holistic bhakti and all these wonderful Zoom programs. So it's really amazing. You kind of have to get out there and show your face on Zoom actually, but a lot of it you don't have to do that. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Didi. Thank you.
Thank you. Yashoda, are you okay for opening it up with these different questions?
Not yet. No, I think
wait till the end. Generally, okay.
Yes, please. Yeah. So
thank you anyway.
Yeah, thank you. It was a nice contribution, but if we do it in general, it's going to be impossible to manage. Jagatam, I go out on Sankirtan every week, and I have no problem giving out leaflets. But what I notice about you is it doesn't seem to matter who the person is. It's a whole range of people. You seem to be able to get into intimate discussions with people on the street, and I find that really impressive. Aside from the fact half the time I can't hear what people are saying on the street, that's another point. It's how to have a conversation. I'm amazed how you do that. Do you have any? Can you share, even if you don't know how you do it, because it just might be natural? Can you share some experience?
Well, I look very carefully at people's faces. I generally don't even give a leaflet to someone who doesn't look interested or who isn't smiling at us to begin with. But then there's always certain people that have that certain look when they're standing at the Harinam party, and you can just see from their facial expression that they have some deep curiosity or they want to know more. They're like maybe a little bit hesitant, but I don't know. So those are usually the kind of people that I will go up to and just ask them, I don't know. I guess I speak to everyone differently, but Yashashvini also inspires me, because she also does that so nicely and so naturally. I think it's just compassion and seeing that mood of inquisitiveness or curiosity or complete delight. And some people don't want to engage, though. Some people, when I approach them, they go away because they feel too embarrassed, which I always feel really bad about, because they could have stayed longer and heard the Harinam longer. But some people, they do engage. So I think it's just, I don't know, some kind of mercy.
Do you generally talk on the street? Because I'm not privy to the conversations, obviously, because there's so much noise and we're all chanting Hare Krishna really loudly, but I can see you chatting away to whoever it is. Are you generally talking about the substance of bhakti, or is it more, is it usually kind of spreading that joy and that compassion, that love, maybe through any means? It doesn't necessarily have to be straight off the bat, the pure thing.
I think usually the first thing I do is I open the little leaflet to the last page where the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is printed quite large and bold, and I just I said, this is what we're chanting. I don't know, I guess everyone's different. I guess it might what I might say to them might be different for each person. I can't even remember. I can't even tell you, sorry.
I think some people get the mantra and some people don't, right? So in a way, that's a natural place of further absorption in the conversation, or it peters out, right? Because if they look at it and go, what's that? They're not going to continue. If they look at it and it speaks to them, then they're going to want to engage a bit more.
Yeah. When I used to do book distribution on the street, I used to be in the mood of prayer, like 24 hours, like just praying to Lord Chaitanya, please send someone who wants to know you. So I just feel that there are so many souls out there who are desperate to understand the truth. So by making that prayer, I'm praying to be an instrument to bring them closer to Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
You're praying to Nityananda Prabhu or Chaitanya, or
I pray to Lord Chaitanya.
Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
And you do that during the week in the lead up to the Sankirtan, or on the morning, or
No,
whatever?
Just during.
Or even during. Okay, I'm going to do that. That's a really good idea. Please send me someone who wants to hear the holy name.
And he always does, always.
Okay.
Send me someone who wants to know about Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I can't believe I haven't thought of doing that. That's a great idea. I mean, you can pray that for every day, basically, right?
Yes.
It's amazing who Krishna turns up, and in fact, on the last Sankirtan, I was going to get a car from Bolt, which is a competitor to Uber. It can never get its act together. So I went on Uber, and as I went to the Uber car, I found one of our leaflets on the ground, and I didn't have any of our leaflets. So I picked it up, entered the Uber car, and the guy he knew about the Vedas. He was so interested in everything.
Wow.
So that leaflet, literally, I got from the ground. I was able to give to him after a great conversation in the Uber car.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think you're always in that mood of giving to others, Yashoda. I mean, people that you've worked with now, they're full-time devotees. So I think you know this mood.
But Jagatam, when you're cultivating someone, I mean, I know some of the people you have cultivated, over the years. And everybody has fears coming into Krishna consciousness. They're going to have their own things that come up, whatever it is. It's not all plain sailing. It's not like just taking off into the sky and never looking back. Do you sort of let people deal with their own fears, or have you got anything you can tell us to help us become better at helping the people that we bring into Krishna consciousness, help us get better at helping them with their fears?
I think the first thing to do is let them express themselves. Let them say what their blockages are or their fears. Be open and listen, and maybe reflect back to them what you've heard them say, because then that opens up the possibility that that you can help them once you understand more about them, I think. Yeah.
They've got to be comfortable that you're not trying to make them that you don't have expectations that they're perfect or something, or that they got to be perfect, or
Right.
That's the trick, isn't it? We're aiming. Remember Gopinath Prabhu, he had a beautiful expression. He said, "The path to perfection is love and affection," which I thought was a beautiful saying. But sometimes we think the path of love and affection is perfection. And that trips us up, right? Because if we're just trying to be perfect, it's never going to work, and we're never going to be able to voice our natural concerns.
So true.
Does that come up quite a lot for you? People voicing their fears? Is that a prevalent thing?
I just think it's a really individual thing. Yeah. I think it just has to flow naturally in conversation. And just thinking that Krishna's in everyone's heart, and you would like that person to develop bhakti, but that first of all, you have to develop bhakti. I have to be feeling and experiencing bhakti in my own life in order to give it to someone else. So yeah, I think it's different in every situation.
Here's an interesting one. I don't know if you may not have experienced this, but I'm sure you've seen it happen with other people. If you're cultivating somebody into Krishna consciousness, and there's some romantic attraction develops, or maybe there was romantic attraction to begin with, so it's kind of mixed motives. How do you manage that? What do you do? Is it a conflict of interest? Do you hand the person off to someone else, or do you be honest with the other person, or how do you handle that? Because that must happen quite a lot.
Oh. Again, I think it would be a very individual thing. I don't know what to say about that. What about you, Yashoda? How would you handle it?
Oh, that's a really good. That's a Jewish tactic, answering a question with a question. I would. Yeah. Has it actually ever happened to me? I'm trying to remember. I would be honest about it at the earliest opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I do when cultivating people is I try and give them the broadest sangha possible. So I make them as little dependent. It's not like I'm trying to step away. Someone's asked me what the question is. So the question is, what happens if you are cultivating someone and you become romantically attracted? So what I try and do as a pretty much a consistent strategy is broaden it, so I don't bail out of the relationship, that person at least has 2, 3, 4 really good go-to people. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they're all senior to me, at least equivalent or senior to me, so they're not in any way either placing me on any false pedestal, or and they're able to check things against each other, and also helps helps get them involved in more seva spontaneously, and you're less on at the control mechanism, which one should always try not to be.
I think that's really perfect that you would, introduce them to other devotees. That would be a perfect solution, I would think, on that.
Cool. Yeah, how do you how does the process, how do you get people interested in chanting rounds really early, and do you say do one round a day? What's the whole approach to chanting?
Again, it's very individual and very much different for each person.
Mhm.
I know several people that I've met in the past. I wouldn't introduce the chanting right away at all.
Right.
Well, I'd only speak philosophy with them, encourage them to read, and really in the past, I would bring them to the temple. I would, because I live right near Bhaktivedanta Manor, and that would be such a wonderful way to open their hearts, actually, by going into that temple that Prabhupada established, and introducing them to the deities there, and maybe some devotees, and introducing them to Srila Prabhupada, and and then taking them around to see the Goshala and the beautiful walk around the lake with all the Bhagavad Gita verses on it, on placards for them to see. I mean, that's such an easy way. But now we don't have that. We don't have the opportunity to do that. Our temples are all closed down. So and so it's a really relevant question, because there's one very beautiful man that I met during the first protest that we joined in our Harinam, and I had to really ask myself this question: where am I going to go with this person? Because I can't, I don't have that facility to bring him to the temple. But we do have little centers, like we have our Krishnafari group and in Hackney, and now some of the Ganga Matas are starting a little informal program on Sunday. So I've invited him, and he's very eagerly gone to both of those. And I've asked, I got him a Bhagavad Gita and a Science of Self-Realization. So he's started reading those books, and practically every day he writes to me with some question that from one of the pages of those books. And but it's interesting that I met him when we were in the park after the major protest, and we were chanting there together. And so he came to the devotees through the holy name, because he stood there for quite a long time watching the kirtan, and I was able to stand and talk with him, and he gave me his phone number. So we've become quite close friends now. And actually, by your suggestion, I also opened him up to other devotees such as yourself, to Yadubar, and I'm thinking to also open him up to Atmavidya, who's on one of my reading groups. And he's so happy to be interacting with these different devotees. But for him, interesting, because he came through the holy name, he agreed to start chanting rounds right away, practically right at the beginning. He got beads at the Hackney Center, and they taught him how to chant. He started out with one round. In one day, he went to two rounds. So I said, I think you're ready to go to 4 rounds now. So he chuckled and he said yes. So I just think that everybody's different. Not everybody will be able to come into chanting so quickly like that. But there's so many ways that people can come in, that we just have to pray and be in touch with Super Soul and with Guru and Gauranga, and that we can be an instrument. It's constantly about being an instrument, to help someone else on the path. And like Krishna says, those who preach my glories, they are very dear to me. So if to pray for that, to be an instrument to help others to come to Krishna consciousness is a wonderful prayer to have in your life.
That's what I'm getting from every answer you've given. You've been like super simple and consistent. You've said basically two things. I've kind of put it in my own words, so forgive me if I sort of turn it around a bit, but it's everyone is totally individual. There's not a technique. Everybody who shares will have their own way, and everybody who's cultivated needs to be cultivated in a unique way. And it all really depends upon that initial sincere prayer to your Ishtadev to send you someone, and to retain that prayer so that you are in alignment with Paramatma and you're in alignment with Guru, and so that your intuition is working fully empowered by Parampara. That's really what I'm getting from you throughout the whole discussion.
Yeah, I think that's really true, because we are all individuals. We're all individual persons, and so we all have to be treated differently. And it's actually such an honor to have that kind of service where you can greet people who, like I used to live at the Bury Place Temple and then the Soho Street Temple. And along with Rahini Nandan, my beautiful godbrother, we set up a lunch and dinner program. We gave out invitations on the street. And so many people were coming, so many people coming off the street and coming to the temple for a free vegetarian lunch, but also to hear about Krishna. And I used to feel that what a privilege it was to greet these people who had come from the background of millions of lifetimes in the material world, and now they've fallen into Krishna's temple. What a privilege. And, whatever way that we can do that, whatever way we can become an instrument like that is a very glorious, glorious seva. I feel a glorious honor for us. And with any seva, I think any devotee will be praying to their Ishtadev to please help me to do this seva nicely. So, but this seva of cultivating people in Krishna consciousness or introducing them, I find is a really perfect way of engaging like that and praying to our Guru, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to Srimati Radhika. Please engage me, give me the intelligence to say what is necessary to say to this person to help them to become enlivened in Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take that very simple, straightforward, and subtle lesson, and I'm going to apply that into my sharing, which is to pray more for Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu to send me some beautiful devotees to both cultivate and introduce to other devotees.
Oh, that's nice, you shared. Thank you. And I was just thinking how everybody has their beauty. Everyone, each and every person has their own particular beauty and certain qualities and characteristics. So to be able to connect.
Yeah, my mum asked a brilliant question the other day. She said to me, isn't it all equality in the spiritual world? I said, there's no need for any equality in the spiritual world because there's no envy.
Wow.
And she was like, wow, yeah, okay, I get that.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So actually thinking about, yes, she's my main, we have some it's kind of fun speaking to agnostic. It sharpens your sword,
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking to an atheist is a waste of time, but an agnostic is more interesting. Tarun, are you there, or are you conked out with hay fever? I'm hoping he's there. He's got to be there. Yes, he is. Yeah, well done, mate. Well done. Tarun doesn't look like it, but he's got a severe affliction of hay fever, so he's snuffling through the event.
I was just relocating from my bed, actually. I can't lie to you guys.
Thank you for that. You might want to put it on mute.
I was just
for a second while you do that. Jagatam,
was
thank you for a beautiful conversation, and I learned as much through how you said what you said as what you actually said. When we had that little interaction, I said to you, "You're very subtle." I think my interaction with you, that's what I experience, is the subtlety of the sharing experience. It's very beautiful, because Paramatma whispers, doesn't shout, and so you seem to be able to channel that beautifully. Thank you so much. Tarun,
Thank you,
over to
Yashoda,
you.
thank you for being subtle, Yashoda, with me.
Thank you.
Thank you for being subtle with me.
Oh no, it's great training for a bulldozer like me. You know, I have to completely. Badara's probably having a good chuckle as he's watching it. Yeah. He knows me very well. Tarun, please. Over to you.
Harry Ball. Yes, thank you for a really sweet discussion. Yes, as you showed an Anand Prabhu reference, I'm not feeling very well, so I can't lie, a lot of it didn't go in, but it's been half an hour on Holistic Bhakti with none of the sound of my own voice, so I'm happy to go back and watch it later. But the bits I took from it, I really appreciated. And really a lot of food for thought in terms of sharing, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of your answers in the rest of the session. Jagatam, Didi. Also, shout out to everyone who sent me a joke about when Yashodanand and Prabhu asked the question about what was it about bringing someone into Krishna consciousness and being romantically interested in them. I quite a few different people just sent me personal messages, like making jokes about themselves or making jokes about how Yashodanand and Prabhu had forgotten about their love affairs. Shout out to Jagatam, that was Jagatam's joke. Anyway, I will try to be serious. Okay, so we have a really wonderful panel here tonight. It's the usual suspects, and we have some really nice questions. So I'm going to start with this first question. We have 1 minute to answer questions, guys. And the alarm didn't work last time, so I'll wave a big sign in capital letters in front of your face that says "Finish, please." So the first question, okay, this is quite a long one, so let me try and read it clearly. Can you say something about older devotees who have fallen from the path, possibly years ago, but who now want to rekindle their relationship with Guru and Krishna, but who feel inadequate, fallen, guilty, shameful, etc.? What advice can you give them? Do you know of programs aimed at older devotees coming back into the fold, but who need special handling to feel good about themselves and the possibility of obtaining grace again? Thank you. Oh wait, sorry, I should have specified. Jagatam, Didi, do you want to answer first?
Wow, that is really such a powerful and heartfelt question. Thank you for that beautiful question. If there are devotees who feel like that, I don't personally know of any particular program for older devotees who want to come back, but I would just encourage anyone to reach out and make contact with any devotee that they feel that they can have a friendship with, or that they feel comfortable with, or that they trust, and just reach out and just be honest with them. And I mean, we've all been through problems, we've all gone through difficulties, and externally I've been in Krishna consciousness for 45 years, but it's not like I was actually absorbed in bhakti that whole time. I had so many internal conflicts and difficulties, and other people, they might leave Krishna consciousness or leave the association of devotees for a while, but they you can easily get all in your head about that, with all the emotions that were mentioned, shame and self-hatred and all these things. So I would just say, please just reach out to any devotee and start talking. Just be yourself.
Okay. You showed Anandam Prabhu. Do you want to add anything? I think for this one, I'm not going to take loads of answers.
I'll keep it to well under a minute. I would say, firstly, listen to them. Don't try to fix them. Listen to them and gently engage them in seva. And also just gently make the point that we've all fallen off the path in a sense. That's why we're reborn again. If we hadn't already done it, if we hadn't done the same thing, we wouldn't be in this lifetime. So they're just observing that in their lifetime they fell off the Krishna conscious path. But you know, we don't know what happened in the last trillion lifetimes for us. It's not a linear process. So Krishna is ever compassionate.
Thank you. I like that sense of perspective. Okay, so next question. Okay. Oh, I like this one. I was raised.
Sorry, ask Badara that question, please.
Okay, Badara Prabhu, do you want to add something?
Well, it's my question, so I don't have an answer for it. But I was in the garden chanting today, and for some reason my mind went to stories that I've heard of devotees that have kind of left the association of devotees, and who have even on their deathbeds, not having rekindled a relationship with the devotees, Prabhupada appears to them, you know, when they're dying. And it just occurred to me, you know, like, I don't know how many really active God brothers and God sisters are out there, but, you know, Prabhupada initiated maybe 5,500 of them. And it just occurred to me that, you know, there are probably some out there that would benefit from knowing that people care about them. That was where the question came from. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Could I just say something on that? That since that question came up for you, Badara, and you were thinking like that compassionately about those devotees, perhaps you could think of some network to engage or to somehow attract devotees that you know do not have association right now. I'm sure that you could come up with something.
I was going to give that to Yashodanandan on one more project to manage, you know, because he does it so well. I can help, but
I'm not even going to answer you.
I know, because you'll just say yes, right? Okay.
But the reason I asked you to answer the question, not knowing that was your question, is I just imagine that you've met quite a few people in that situation. So
yeah.
You would know these people that you're talking about, Badara, more than Yashoda would know them.
I know some of them, and I think that, you know, I know Nemi Maharaj met one. He told me the story. He met one a couple of years back, and the devotee was deeply remorseful. And Nemi Maharaj just said, you know, well, your relationship with Guru is eternal, and Prabhupada loves you anyway. And the devotee just burst into tears and just, you know, kind of broke down very emotionally. So, you know, a helping hand, a kind word, I don't know. I think it's kind of what people need.
It's a really great idea, actually. There are devotees all over the UK, and I'm sure all over different parts of the world, who are stranded and alone and feel like they can't come back. So I guess it just would mean someone feeling compassionate for them and maybe trying to make contact, even with just one of them or two.
Today somebody called me from South Africa, who I never met, asking me to go to South Africa because he liked what I said on the Zoomatron or whatever we called it. So I thought, okay, but it's probably not going to happen. But there are a lot of people out there that are looking for connection.
Yeah.
It shows you Krishna's compassion, though, because that gentleman, I was chanting, walking down Highgate, and he just went, Hare Krishna, and raised his hands. I was like, how does he know I'm Hare Krishna? And I realized I was chanting. And then we started having a chat, and then we went for a drink, and I found out that he was at the temple in Soho where Nani Maharaj was. So I put them back in touch. They were really close back in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Amazing story. Amazing.
Yeah, right.
I think that sneeze marks us moving on to the next question.
I feel sorry for the screen, by the way.
Yeah, well, I have issues, so.
Lufa. It helps.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that American for soap or something?
No, it's a homeopathic
Remedy.
It's a homeopathic remedy. I cured my hay fever more or less, taking it for about 7 years in a row, and every year it got less. So it takes a while, but it does work.
Okay. I'll send you a message afterwards and get you to send me the name. Thank you so much. I'm trying to do everything I can right now. It's really bad today. Okay, so the next question is, I was raised to believe you should never put your beliefs on anyone else. For some reason, I don't mind giving books on the street, but I really struggle when a friend asks a basic question in relation to Krishna. There is so much knowledge to give, even to tell something so basic seems to require a lot of explanation. And then I feel like I'm putting my beliefs on them or saying too much, and it really holds me back in sharing. Is there any advice you can offer? Okay. I'd like to start off with my Madhuvran.
Haribol Dandavat Pranam. I'm not sure I have an answer for that. I feel a bit like that as well myself sometimes, that if I know somebody quite well, then I don't want to necessarily, and they have their belief system, then I don't want to. So I think what I do is just try to find commonalities between, maybe what they're into and what we're into, and just sort of discuss around those things without trying to sort of convince the other person of anything. It's more just like a conversation. Well, this is what I'm into. What are you into? And in that way, you find common ground, and rather than trying to like preach to them with this mood of I want to make you into a devotee, because I've never had that mood particularly myself anyway. So I think, that's all I could say about that, really. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that they have asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in that position quite a lot. I don't go out on the street preaching. It's not my mood at all. But I meet lots of people, and as they get to know me, or sometimes really within half an hour or an hour, they wonder why I am as I am. And then they just start to ask me questions. Why are you calm? Why are you not panicking? Why this? Why that? Do you meditate? And sort of then through that, I always speak about Vedic philosophy and say, well, in the Vedas, and I study Vedic philosophy, and we are told this and we are told that. And it just turns into a conversation, and generally they're always fascinated, and they are the ones asking the questions, and I answer them as honestly as and as well as I'm able. And eventually they become interested, and sometimes that's all they want to speak to me about. but it's a slow thing, you know, it's them gaining trust and that they trust your answers.
Mhm. Awesome. Okay, Charu Chandrika Didi, do you want to say something?
Oops. Hi, Bob. Sorry. What was the question again? Sorry.
No worries. The question is, so how can we share our Krishna consciousness, our beliefs in Krishna consciousness, without feeling like we're putting our beliefs onto someone or saying too much, you know, being maybe what can be perceived as pushy or preachy?
I think Srila Prabhupada in his books, and Gurudev also, they would always say that, you know, this is about love for God. So everyone has that pure love in their hearts. You know, that's natural. It's not sectarian in this way that how to say, you can't take that away. It's there. So so in, you know, in that way, you're not kind of putting your beliefs. I never see that I'm putting my, when I, you know, distribute books, when I share with people, I never see that I'm putting my beliefs. I see that this is just, it's so natural and so innate that it's undeniable in that way. I don't know. I never really kind of thought about that question before, you know. But
yeah, that's a nice perspective. Thank you. Okay, who is next? Badara Prabhu, do you want to answer next?
Yeah, I think it's good that we check in with ourselves in terms of our motivation and ask the question. I think it's a healthy reflection. Am I motivated in what I'm doing? Am I making a judgment that I'm not really qualified to make? And it brings up a point that I really got a lot out of Jagatam Didi's presentation, because she seems to do it very naturally, which is that, you know, we can go out there and we can, you know, be very enthusiastic in giving out books and everything. But at the end of the day, if somebody takes a book or someone becomes interested, it's because Super Soul is guiding them within themselves. You know, we're being used by Super Soul as a medium or an agent. But when we start thinking that we're the ones bringing somebody to Krishna consciousness, that means that that's just a symptom of us being stuck in a doer mentality, which is not really Krishna conscious. So, you know, I think it's a good idea to be self-reflective on it. And I would just, you know, be yourself and just be okay to share it according to how you feel is natural to you, and it'll work.
Nice. Thank you. Yashodanandam Prabhu.
Yeah, I want to build on what Badara said, in that I'm trying to remember my point now. Yeah. Gurudev, I always remember Srila Gurudev as being, and he seduced everybody. He was a great seducer. So we have to remember, we're not the seducers. We are we aspire to be the hollow flute for the, ultimately the music Krishna's playing on his flute through Gurudev, ultimately through us. So it's meditating on that, on being a flute, a servant like a flute. And there are two aspects of what Badara said, because if you're going to get out of the way for Paramatma, you are as much the doer in your mentality if you impose your mood on someone as you are if you decline to engage at all because you're worried about imposing. In both cases, your ego is involved. Mm-hmm. So the approach is to acknowledge whatever your egoic position is. I want to impose this on someone, or I want to control the situation by not imposing it at all and not looking like someone who's preaching. Both are the flip side of the same thing.
Thank you. Jagatam, do you want to add something?
Oh, I just really love what you said, Yashoda, about that. Yeah, I love that. And but also I guess I would say that I'm learning, because I used to be one of those really fanatic kind of gung-ho people that was probably quite pushy, but I'm learning so much now that you know, every person's an individual, and I'm learning to ask them questions. If they come to me and ask a question, I'll ask them, how do they feel, or what's happening in their life, or what is the goal of your life? Because then you can find out so much from that person and who that person is, and then be inspired to speak something when the time is right.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move swiftly on to the next question because we have quite a few good questions and not a lot of time. And now all of a sudden everyone wants to start submitting questions when I just thought anyway, okay, we're gonna roll with it. Oh, that's my alarm to say get on with it. Okay, we're going to move answers to questions to 30 seconds because I want to try and cover quite a few of these questions. I'm going to encourage you to pass as speakers because I want to ask all of your opinions, but if you don't feel like you need to add something, you can just pass and we can cover more questions and offer more opinions. Okay, so the next question is, I find it hard to be myself in Bhakti because of all the rules and regulations. I feel discouraged from preaching because I don't like this. I don't want someone else to feel this way, but at the same time, I understand I gain so much from being in Bhakti. How can I overcome this so that I can feel good about sharing Bhakti with others? And there's a similar question as well that someone's asked, which is essentially, to summarize, I want to share Bhakti, very similar. I want to share Bhakti. I'm not following all of the rules and regulations, so I feel somewhat hypocritical. Someone else's question. What should I do? Should I just keep my mouth shut, or should I try and share? So okay, I'm going to start off with Yashodananda Prabhu.
Sharing will help your desire and your greed for Bhakti, which will naturally help you ultimately, eventually follow the rules. And therefore, there's no qualification needed in sharing other than what Jagatam said, which is to know the Maha Mantra. And so share away, because that will increase the greed in your heart, make your heart grow. And then eventually you'll follow the regulations easily without it being a struggle.
Thank you. Jagatam, Didi, do you want to answer next?
I remember one time at Soho Street Temple, and Mahajudi was the temple president, and I was doing book distribution and also sort of cultivating people who were visiting the temple. And I said to Mahajudi Prabhu, I think I have to stop preaching now. And he said, why? And he said, because I still so much lust in my own heart. So how can I preach to them? And he said, but that's the process. By giving to others, these things gradually become purified in your own heart.
Thank you. Madhuvrat Prabhu.
Very well. Yeah, I think what Jagatam Didi just said, that's pretty much on point, is that as we're practicing, and preaching is a practice, these things come up and they are purified. you know, and what came to mind when you were saying that question, I don't know how it's relevant in a way, but it was one devotee once told me that it seems that we are giving up everything for nothing in terms of regulations, but actually the reality is we're giving up nothing for everything. So I think that's a nice meditation if you're having difficulty, you know, giving things up that you think you should be giving up. Actually, they're like really, to our acharyas, they're like nothing, and we are giving them up to attain everything. So anyway, that's just more. To Kenneth.
I think be truthful and talk about the things that are working. So you speak about the things that are working for you and are having an effect on you. Don't worry to speak about the other things.
Could I say something to her on that again?
Yeah, very briefly.
It's very good because when I was in Brighton for a couple of years, there was one devotee, and she was an older lady. Maybe she was in 70s or something, but she was always out, so much enthusiasm, distributing books and chanting and bringing people into the
Yes, she's still
Sangha.
here. You mean Sri Radha?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still going strong.
She's still going.
80,
Oh yeah.
84.
Oh yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
that's amazing. But what amazed me was I said to her, I said something about that I become depressed sometimes. And she said, I have depression. I struggle with depression. You wouldn't know it, but that gave me so much perspective, you know, that she wasn't putting a lot of emphasis on it. She saw it as something that was there, but didn't really make a difference. She, like you were saying earlier, put your emphasis on what Sarveshwari was saying, put your emphasis on what gives you love and what enthuses you in bhakti. So yeah, she was a great example of that.
Damn. I miss her. I haven't seen her for a while.
Oh, you knew her too, yeah.
Yeah, because I was in Brighton.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, who else have we not asked? Badara Prabhu.
Probably really quickly, respect and love yourself. Realize that you're on the path. Sarveshwari mentioned also be truthful, be honest with where you're at. So you can be really frank and open and say, I'm on this path of bhakti, but I'm not perfect at it, but I'm underway. And it gives me a lot of value, and speak about it from your positive experience. And, you know, have faith that the process will, you know, carry you further. I think that's all you really need to know.
Nice, thank you. Charu Chandrika.
I think what Jagatam Didi said, I think that was very good, and everyone what they spoke. And I would just to add anything, it would be to be in a mood of prayer and to really pray internally that, you know, I really want to follow, and I want to be a pure instrument, and please make me such, and, you know, in a kind of repentant, remorseful mood. And I think if you're very, very sincere in that prayer, then Krishna will reciprocate, or Gurudev will reciprocate and empower you to follow. So.
Thank you. Thank you for all your answers. Okay, I'm struggling to read, but we're still here. Okay, I'm gonna ask this question directly to Yashodananda Prabhu, and afterwards, if anyone wants to add anything, they can just kind of like give me a shout, and I'll kind of MC. Anyone from the panel is not not a free for all. What was it? How would you engage people who live quite secluded, away from temples, devotees, and do not have so much possibility to associate or go to a temple?
30 seconds or 1 minute?
Oh, you can have a minute.
Okay, I'll try and take less. Well, we're in the best age ever for that. Reading groups. Reach out for reading groups. Reach out for one-to-one reading groups, one-to-many reading groups. Find the kind of online saver that Krishna Priya was talking about at the beginning. There's so much online saver. Get trained in online saver. Find someone who can train you in online saver. Get involved in. You could find a kirtan buddy, and you do kirtan with someone online. So just make sure you have some connection to the internet. That's the one thing you need. Otherwise, it's going to be tricky. Oh, and if you don't know how to reach out, if your network is small, just reach out to one person. Like if you're on this Zoom call right now, in fact, someone did that earlier in the season, and you're stuck out in somewhere like in the middle of British Columbia or someone, then pipe up and say, hey, I need some help, and someone's going to come through for you, because that's what devotees do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's true. Okay.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's true. Be surprised how much like devotees will be willing to help in this regard, to give time and energy. Okay, do any of the other panelists want to add anything? I see Badara Prabhu Badara Madhava Prabhu are both shaking your heads in sync. Okay, so
Tarun, could I just say that earlier on, Krishna Priya was asking if we could have an interactive session, and so I was wondering, because I'm seeing some very nice comments in the chat, and I was wondering if anybody else who's present here today would like to either answer that question or any other question.
I think the one apprehension I have to asking everyone, Jagatam, Didi, is that we're limited on time, and then it becomes difficult to assess who it's appropriate to ask to and where to draw the line. And I'm happy to read out some of these comments, and sometimes people send me direct requests to answer questions, and if it's possible, I ask them. But I think to in general, and through the chat we communicate, but I think in general to open the floor sometimes creates problems. But I'm gonna read out. Yeah, there were two really nice comments, so I think it's nice that you drew attention to them. So I'm gonna read them out actually. Focus on strengthening your relationships with strong natural devotees who make you feel more natural in yourself and in Bhakti, and who you can talk to about your inner challenges and experiences. I like the word natural here. I think it's very important. You know, it should feel natural. The next comment also uses the word natural. This comes naturally in Bhakti. Artificial regulations can block heart and emotions. These regulations should come naturally. Well, that one leaves some food for thought. Some personal questions are coming up, but I think to stay on the topic, we'll save them for another session. I'm also thinking as guilt came up earlier, and guilt would be a really good session. But we're going to move on to the next question. Which might be all we have time for, but let's see how well we are at after this question. Should we adapt our strategy to the crowd we are preaching to? That is to say, in the midst of theosophists or theosophists, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and
Theosophists
or New Age people, should we use their jargon? and in the midst of alien believers speak on the 5th canto in regards to the different lokas and such alien life in the Bhagavatam. Okay. Jagatam, Didi, do you want to go first?
No, I'm not ready to answer
Okay.
that, sir.
Okay, that's first. That's fine.
That was a quick answer.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. Yashodanandam Prabhu, do you want to go first?
That's a really difficult question, especially in such a short amount of time. I'm going to try and make it really brief. It comes back to Jagatam's initial proposition. This is all very natural and individual to the person. So I don't think there's a technique where you have to use all. I mean, the Theosophists have been going. You know, they were started by Madame Blavatsky in the 18th century, and they have some credit to them, although they go down a very different. Their sources are very different to ours. I don't think we should be apologists and start trying to translate everything we're doing into their terms. I think we should just try and explain what we're experiencing in simple terms. And I don't think we need to concentrate on the differences to begin with. We need to focus on the attraction of what we've been given to share.
Nice. Madhuvat Prabhu, you are next.
Very well. Well, I think, you know, you get into interesting conversations with people. And when I was doing book distribution like regularly on the streets, then you do meet people who are into like aliens and stuff. And that is just a natural connection point of you know, how to, well, what does it say about aliens in the Vedas? So I think, why not? I mean, you can speak from a very pure point of view, but also the Vedas is very broad. So I think, you know, everybody's different. And yeah, I mean, there's lots of interesting things to talk about. So I think that's, why not? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I meet lots of people that in my world that are into all kinds of things. And I just find it an interesting conversation. I talk from my point of view and they speak from theirs. But I think you need to know your subject so you can answer intelligently and from the heart. And you also maybe need to know a little bit about their subject.
Yeah, but I think it's not like you should go off, oh, today I'm going to speak to a load of New Age people, so then therefore I should go on Wikipedia and look up what is New Age, you know?
No.
I think if you already know about something about it, then, you know, get in a conversation, but it's not that you should go and study loads of mundane stuff so that you can talk to just about anybody, because you meet all sorts of people out there, all sorts of, you know, I was going to say crazy, but there's all sorts of people out there. So talk to them.
People, colorful people.
Yes. I was just remembering when Charachandrika took us to a witch's coven in the woods in Wales. That was an interesting one. Anyway.
Okay. That's funny. Badara Prabhu.
Yeah, I mean, what comes to my mind is stay true to who you are, be authentic, don't try to be something you're not, and meet people where they're at, have a care for them, and just engage in a conversation with that care, and you'll find it works.
Thank you.
Love conquers all.
Yeah, that's and we're in the business of love, Bhakti yogis.
You wouldn't believe the first conversation I had in Krishna Conscious, not with you, Badar. The first conversation I had was the most insane conversation, of which I was not in the least bit interested in whatsoever. But it didn't stop me. But sometimes what you say has nothing to do with it. I like the guy. I liked him, even though he talked a lot of madness, right?
Next person.
Sneeze on the truth.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, oh yeah, that came up in another session, but if it is the case that you sneeze on the truth a lot of truth has been spoken on our behalf. Who's next? Cherry Chandrika, Didi.
Yeah, I was just remembering that Srila Prabhupada, he was speaking to, was it a rally car driver or something, maybe Pradara Prabhu or Jagatam, Didi knows, and a famous guy, and he, started speaking, about that subject, like he knew something, and I think the guy was very impressed, and he felt like he really related to Srila Prabhupada. And then, of course, Srila Prabhupada turned the conversation around completely, to direct Krishna consciousness. But it definitely does warm people up. If you do happen to know something about whatever it is, New Age or this or that, they do feel that they can really relate to you. They relax and open up and like this. But if you don't know, then you don't know, that's fine. And then you could just speak your own language, what you're used to, and with love and affection, like that, they'll naturally open up and warm up. So I guess it depends on if you know or if you don't. But I don't think there's any harm to use whatever knowledge you and relate in that way.
Prabhupada said, if you love me, love my dog. So if they have a dog, say something nice about their dog, and immediately you're off to the races. It's okay.
Yeah, that incident that you spoke about, the devotees at that was at the manor, the Bhaktivedanta manor, and the devotees were amazed that Prabhupada spoke for almost 2 hours with this man about cars.
Wow.
And and he was asking the man to explain all different things, and the man was so happy, and he left the temple like loving Krishna consciousness because of that. But every situation is different.
That goes back to something Badara said in a previous session, or you may have said it in a different comment. I can't remember. I think it was in a session. The importance of, it's when Guru recognizes you, then your identity is recognized. So what that person is saying is someone that is actually recognizing me for me. They have no ulterior motive. They're not trying to do anything. They're just loving me. And he felt that. So that's the to, like, for example, I was approached just chat up line. He basically said, well, no, yes, and the good news is Jesus. But as soon as I engaged in a nice conversation about Jesus, I didn't even get into Krishna. I could tell he wanted to go. It's like he'd done his job. I didn't feel any love whatsoever. I just felt, okay, I'm on his tick list.
I just add one thing as well, Tarun Prabhu.
Go on.
That's one devotee a while ago told me about how to distribute books, and it was Shamala Didi actually. She said there's two conversations going on. If you're speaking to somebody about Krishna consciousness, there's the one that's with the mouth and the mind, but then there's also the heart conversation. And this is like exemplified by the pure devotee. So the pure devotee may be talking to you about something that seems completely mundane, but their heart is directly connecting with your heart and saying, hey, sleeping soul, Jeev Jago, wake up. So this devotee told me, you try that on the street when you're distributing books, and it actually works. I mean, I tried it, and if you can do it, if you can have both of these sort of levels of conversation going on simultaneously, connecting on a soul level and connecting on on the mental level, then so I think that's an interesting approach when you're speaking to people about Krishna. And that's certainly what Gurudev used to do, the heart conversation. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Which means, hypothetically, you could use football knowledge in...
Yeah, ask Jag Mohan. He's always doing that.
Oh, totally. Well, yeah. Excuse me. There's been a really heartfelt message from a lady, I think she's in Croatia. I know her, Sobrani Didi. And if she's listening, let's communicate on WhatsApp. And because she's basically saying she's trying to recharge her spiritual life. She's very much on her own in Slovenia. So please reach out, Didi. Let's talk on WhatsApp. There are many people here that can serve you, and to so you can feel in good association. So thank you for sharing such a heartfelt message to everyone.
I find it fascinating that she's addressing the question that I first asked. She's an example of somebody reaching out.
Yes. Yeah.
So Christian, if you need,
she's also organizing a World Sankirtan Day in Slovenia.
If you need an example of a Krishna miracle, that's it for today.
Also, to have the courage to share that with everybody.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you, Didi. Yeah.
Jagatam, Didi, did you want to add anything to this question?
What was the question again? Sorry.
What was the question again? That's a good question. Okay, I found it. Should we adapt our strategy to the crowd we are preaching to?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just thinking of that at least if you're speaking to a group, like I was just thinking of speaking to nuns and what I would say to them and how I had a relationship with Lord Jesus. But if I was speaking to Buddhists, I guess I would try to understand what gave them joy in their life, what gave their joy, what gives them joy in the path that they've chosen, so different from what I've chosen. I would try to make some kind of relationship with where these people were particularly coming from to begin with, and then I would speak, find where I can come in to the conversation then in speaking about Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. Okay, we are coming to the end of our time, but Janardhan Prabhu requested that I ask his question as well. I can't say no to him as he's an integral part of holistic Bhakti. So we're going to ask this question. We're going to ask everyone to keep it to 2 sentences only. Everyone gets their 2 sentences. This is self-policing somewhat because I'm quite unwell, so I'm depending on good faith. But yeah, take your time to consider and then proffer your 2 sentences. Okay, the question is very short as well, so that maybe will help. I have heard many times we must tell everyone we meet about Krishna. How do I practically do this? Okay. I'm going to read that again because I don't think I got the intonation right. I have heard many times we must tell everyone that we meet about Krishna. How do we practically do this? Okay. I'm going to ask first. Charu Chandrika, 2 sentences.
Well, the easiest way is to carry books with us everywhere. We would encourage that. So whoever you meet, you can give them a small book, A Way of Love, or a Secrets of the Undiscovered Cell, or any of those small books, of nice introductory books that Shamrani Didi made and others have made. So yeah, you can just approach them and say, if are you interested in spiritual matters or meditation or whatever it is, and then show them a book. And then they might ask questions, or you can say a little bit about the book. Of course, I find that the easiest anyway.
Thank you. Okay. Badara Prabhu, you're next. 2 sentences.
I can't answer the question because I don't do it. 2 sentences.
Okay.
And I judge the availability of the person to the message. I always try to bridge to it, but it's really dependent on them and my read of them. So I can't fake it.
Thank you. I think that's a nice perspective. Just a brief comment. Taruni is saying that she always used to give taxi drivers Lord Jagannath stickers as tips. Jagatam Didi taught her to do that. I thought that was quite sweet. Who do we have next? We have Madhuvrat Prabhu, and we had Sarveshri. She seems to have disappeared.
The cat's getting demanding.
I wanted to just read this. It is 2 sentences, but there's lots of commas.
You can have mine.
So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying in this song, Kabe Habe Bolo Sedina Ama, in the last verse, he says, when will compassion for all living entities arise within me? At that time, forgetting my own happiness and with a humble heart, this Bhaktivinoda Thakur will meekly wander about and propagate the sacred order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah. Can you post the song name in the chat?
Yeah.
Jagatam Didi, you're next.
Oh, first thing is always wear tilak. Always have your tilak on. So wherever you go, even if you don't personally speak to someone, actually it says in our scriptures, someone who just sees tilak becomes liberated.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a really nice answer. Shodananda Prabhu.
Be practical and be natural and do your best and don't turn it into a neurotic Woody Allen show.
Thank you.
I assume everyone knows who Woody Allen is, but neurotic is fine.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for. And I think that's also all the brain capacity I have the capability for, because I feel like it's slowly my head is going into some internal meltdown. So I'm gonna hand over to Shodananda Prabhu to thank everyone and close off the session while I stay in the background with my mic on mute, blow my nose profusely. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Tarun Prabhu.
Just keep your mic on so we can hear your nose blown. It wouldn't be the same without it. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful session. Thank you to our dear gentle pink rose, who's swaying gently in the wind, looking at the sun of Gora and being inspired to share with new prospective devotees every day. Jagatam Didi, that was really beautiful. Thank you,
Shada, for engaging.
Appreciate your softness and your sincerity and your reassurance that this is not a technique, but it's actually a path of prayer, really, actually. Sharing is about prayer. Thank you, Tarun, for being the main organizer and showing up even though your nose and mind was exploding. So that's much appreciated. You get extra mercy when you're feeling ill, that's for sure. And it sounds pretty bad. So thank you very much and take some rest. Thank you to our beautiful panel in no particular order. Sriman Badara Prabhu, who's always got beautiful words of wisdom. Srimati Charachandrika, if she's listening, thank you, Didi. We always like to hear what you've got to say because we do know that you put into practice what it is that you share. Sriman Madhuvrat Prabhu and Srimati Sareshri Didi, always so happy to hear your beautiful comments, very balanced, very wonderful, and also extra enjoyment today to hear your your pussycat, because I assume it's not a baby, so it must be a cat. She was really playing up today. I think that was the whole of our panel. And thank you for Krishna Priya over in Seattle for her little bit of courage for jumping in there and saying her piece. I think that was a very important contribution, especially in this age. There's a lot of hope with this technology. We should use what can be used for demonic activities, we can use for beautiful bhakti activities, and that's what we're doing with this technology. We should embrace this technology, just like all our acharyas did. They all embraced the printing press. You know, these people are not they're not Luddites. They're not people who reject technology. They accept everything, but for Krishna's purpose. So thank you so much. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadata, Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And also a big thank you to Jagatam, who's pretty much done the posters for many, many weeks now, does a fantastic job, Jagatam Prabhu from the Northwest in the States. Much, much appreciated. You're all free to unmute and let the chaos ensue. Have a good chat. You know what devotees are like when they're leaving a temple. It takes a while, so it's the same on a Zoom room. I think once, Tarun, we woke up about 2 hours later and started chatting, didn't we?